The wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. How to master life with Stoicism. What does it mean to live a good life? To be truly free, strong, and unbreakable? For most, success is wealth, power, or pleasure. But for Marcus Aurelius, one of history's greatest emperors, none of that mattered. Instead, he lived by a simple yet powerful philosophy, Stoicism. And his personal journal, Meditations, holds life-changing wisdom we can still use today. This is the story of how an emperor rejected excess, embraced virtue, and mastered life itself. Let's dive in. Who was Marcus Aurelius? Imagine ruling the most powerful empire on earth. Anything you desire, wealth, pleasure, absolute control, is yours. Most emperors before Marcus indulged in excess, lavish feasts, luxury, and endless vices. The position of emperor was one of absolute authority, and history shows that many before him used that power to indulge in whatever their hearts desired. The Roman world had no shortage of corruption, and yet Marcus Aurelius stood apart. For 19 years, he led with wisdom, justice, and restraint. He rejected indulgence and chose to live with discipline and purpose. Why? Because he believed that true power isn't control over others, it's control over yourself. And that's where Meditations comes in. What is Meditations? Meditations isn't a book, it's a personal journal. Marcus never intended it to be read. It wasn't for an audience, not for fame. It was simply his way of keeping himself accountable. He wrote it to remind himself of his principles. He wrote to reflect on his struggles. He wrote to stay strong in the face of hardship, so he could live up to his own highest standard of virtue. It's filled with timeless lessons on discipline, resilience, and mastering your mind. And today, we're breaking down its most powerful ideas, so you can apply them to your own life. Lesson 1. Live in accordance with nature. What does it mean to live according to nature? For Marcus, it meant fulfilling your potential, just as a tree grows or a bird learns to fly. Everything in nature follows its path. A tree does not try to become something it is not. A lion does not question whether it should act like a lion. It simply follows its nature, growing, hunting, and living as it was meant to. Humans, however, often resist their nature. We chase after things that do not fulfill us. We seek wealth, status, and possessions, thinking they will make us happy. We compare ourselves to others and wish we were living different lives. But Marcus reminds us that this is a mistake. You weren't born to chase wealth or status. You were born to become the best version of yourself. Your purpose isn't about external rewards. It's about inner strength, self-mastery, and virtue. A tree does not grow to impress anyone. It grows because that is what it was made to do. In the same way, you should strive for excellence not because of what you will get from it, but because that is what you were made for. And once you embrace this truth, life becomes simpler, clearer, and more meaningful. Lesson 2. Don't judge. Understand. Every day you'll meet rude, selfish, and unfair people. Marcus reminds us that this is simply a part of life. People will act out of ignorance, greed, or selfishness, but that does not mean we must respond in kind. Instead of getting angry, he asked himself an important question. Am I perfect? Have I never made a mistake? He reminded himself that people act badly not out of pure evil, but because they lack wisdom. A thief may steal because he is desperate. A man may lie because he is afraid. A person may be cruel because they do not know another way to behave. Marcus understood that he could not control the actions of others, only his response. If someone insults you, it is your choice whether to take offense. If someone lies to you, you can choose to react with wisdom rather than anger. It is easy to judge others, but much harder to practice patience and understanding. The next time someone wrongs you, ask yourself, are they doing this because they are truly evil, or because they do not know any better? And if they do not know better, should I not meet them with wisdom rather than anger? Lesson 3. Expect hardship, face it with courage. Life isn't fair. Bad things will happen. Failure, loss, disappointment. Marcus did not pray for an easy life. Instead, he prepared himself to endure whatever came his way. He knew that misfortune was inevitable. He accepted that suffering is part of existence, but rather than fearing it, he embraced it as a challenge. Instead of asking the gods to protect him from hardship, he trained himself to endure it. Instead of wishing for comfort, he strengthened himself for adversity. When hardship strikes, don't complain. Act. Endure. Overcome. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It is not the event itself that harms us, but our perception of it. If you lose a job, you can see it as a disaster or as an opportunity to grow. If someone betrays you, you can drown in anger, or you can accept it as a lesson in human nature. Hardship is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Lesson 4. Don't let possessions own you. Unlike other emperors, Marcus didn't chase material wealth. He reminded himself of a simple truth. Everything you own is temporary. Dreaming of things you don't have is pointless. Appreciate what you have, but don't be attached. True happiness comes from within, not from external things. Marcus had the power to take whatever he wanted. He could have spent his days in luxury, yet he knew that pleasure fades, that riches do not last, and that the pursuit of material things is endless. When you attach your happiness to possessions, you give them control over you. If you think a new car will make you happy, what happens when it breaks down? If you think status will bring you fulfillment, what happens when someone takes your place? Marcus was not against wealth. He simply knew that if your happiness depends on money, status, or possessions, you will never be free. Lesson 5. Don't fear death. Use it as motivation. Marcus Aurelius thought about death constantly, not in fear, but as a reminder to live fully. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Life is short, so don't waste it on things that don't matter. Don't hold grudges. Don't delay what's important. Live with purpose, kindness, and courage today. Marcus understood that death is inevitable. It is the fate of all living things. To fear it is pointless, because it will come regardless, but to use it as motivation, to remind yourself to live each day fully, is wisdom. If today were your last day, would you waste it worrying about small problems? Would you spend it chasing things that do not matter? Or would you make the most of the time you have? The Stoic secret to happiness. For Marcus Aurelius, happiness wasn't about pleasure. It wasn't wealth. It wasn't fame. It wasn't power. It was simply living with virtue. Being a good person, fulfilling your potential, not because someone is watching, not for reward, but because that is what it means to be truly alive. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Final thoughts. Marcus Aurelius lived nearly 2,000 years ago, yet his words still guide us today. His lessons are simple. Control what you can. Ignore what you can't. Be kind. Don't judge. Face hardship with strength. Don't be owned by possessions. Accept death, so you can truly live. This is the way of the Stoic, and if you follow it, you will become unshakable. If this video inspired you, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this.